Hello there, folks. Chris Merlino here. A strange phenomenon has started on the internet. And we are going to get into this today. I talked to you on Wednesday, and I didn't get to this, and I promised I would. So without further ado, today we're going to talk about the Whining Starbucks Barista here on the Chris Merlino Show. So let's get to it. All right. So this is a strange phenomenon that has been, I don't even know. I don't know how long it's gone on. But apparently this is a thing now where employees of Starbucks at times, I guess, when things get busy, when things get too stressful, go on, like they leave, they stop working. And then they go on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, wherever they go, and they post videos complaining about their jobs. And I've seen this in the background of my social media. I've seen it for a while here and there. And I usually ignore it because, why wouldn't I? I mean, I realized that this is not just a once in a while thing. Now it's not pretty much every couple of days, a new one pops up. So today I'm going to talk about this most recent one, which is a week or so ago, in which a person is in the back room crying about her job. She doesn't like her manager. She doesn't like how many customers they have. Someone called out that day. It's a very, she's under a lot of pressure because people are getting mad at her. I'm going to play the clip. It's only about a less than 2 minutes. And then we'll get into it.
I almost walked out today, and I'm crying in the back room right now, and I almost fell on the floor. It's just, I'm like a full-time student. I get scheduled for 25 hours a week, and then on weekends they schedule me the entire day, open to close. I'm on the schedule for 8.5 hours, both Saturday and Sunday. I'm like 3.5 hours into my shift. There's so many customers, and we have 4 people on the floor all day. 25 people were put on the schedule, and somebody had to call out. And there are 4 people running the whole store, and there's so many customers, and there's possibly scheduled 5 people. We only have 13 people employed at this store, and there's so many customers, and they don't want to help us. We need a union because this can't happen. This can't happen. We need fair scheduling. We need managers to hold themselves accountable for helping their workers. They refuse to turn mobile orders on. We need the liberty to be able to do that because there's so many mobile orders, and I need to get through all of them. And then people are yelling at me because they don't have their orders ready. And they don't know what to do. And the customer was misgendering me today, like really badly. I didn't have their order ready, and so they were just like talking to each other, and they're like, "She's clearly incompetent." I have a full mustache and beard. What the fuck? I don't get accommodations for being neurodivergent. I can't to my sick time. I don't even know what to do anymore. I'm like at my wit's end at this job. I really am.
Okay. There's a lot to unpack here. I want to get one thing out of the way first. All right. First of all, just because you have a mustache and beard does not mean that you are not a woman, my friend. Okay, so let's ixnay the ansphobia tray, all right? This is an inclusive show. We are not going to get into that kind of bigotry on my watch. All right, so just, knock it off, okay? So let's get through this bit by bit. So let's get the lay of the land. If I understand what is going on, the situation that she's in, she's still at work. And I'm saying she, I really have no idea. She's still at work, presumably on the clock, because she's complaining about what's currently going on, right? So the situation that's that she's struggling with is still happening. And so she thought the way to handle all of it, all the stress, was to go on social media and cry about it. Literally cry about it. And then she says she was almost crying on the floor. I don't know if you picked that up. So I just want to say, don't do that. All right. That's disgusting. There's spilled coffee and foot junk that people collected on their feet all day. These people are walking all over the floor with their coffee covered shoes. It's slimy. I remember what the floors of a restaurant were like to walk on and to work on. And I've worked my share of restaurant gigs in my life, cooking, washing dishes, being a food runner, serving. I've been a manager of a restaurant. And I can tell you the floors are disgusting even when they're clean. You know, there's just a layer of just disgustingness on it. It's just gross. So you don't ever lie on the restaurant floor, especially in the back. You don't ever lie on the restaurant floor to cry. If you're gonna cry, what you want to do is you want to stand up, or you want to find a seat to sit down in, and then you let it out like that. You know, don't curl up on the restaurant floor, especially in the back of the house. Don't do that ever. All right, then she almost walked out. Okay. She almost quit her job. Now, she isn't working now. As she creates this video, she might as well have walked out, because whatever's going on in the shop, she's not helping. All right. Whatever's made her cry seems to be going on still at this moment in the video. All right. She tells us she's a full-time student. All right. So now I'm going to go out on a limb here. I didn't look her up. I didn't spend a lot of time on this, but I'm going to guess that she goes to an Ivy League school. At least she goes to an Ivy League or something Ivy League-ish. It's Ivy League adjacent at least, but I would probably bet she goes to an Ivy League school, because only in that kind of safe space environment could this kind of, pathetic narcissism be properly cultivated. You need the right conditions for this kind of narcissism to fester and grow into what we're witnessing in this video. Anyway, she's a full-time student, and she works 20 to 25 hours a week. But on the weekend, she's on for a long shift, 8.5 hours. Now, 8.5 hours is what she may not realize is a normal work day for normal people. All right, so there's nothing unusual for workers to be scheduled for that kind of shift. My daughter works for Chick-fil-A, has worked those hours and even longer shifts than that. So I'm not terribly surprised in a busy Starbucks that they would have you work, shifts when you can. Now, I don't know how they do it at Starbucks, but everywhere I've ever worked, you have to submit your availability. You tell them what hours you're available to work. And this is especially true if you're a student. Obviously, if you're a full-time employee for a company, they're going to expect you to work the hours that they schedule you for. And, you're unlikely to get a full-time job if you're never available. Just on certain specific times, that's difficult to pull that off, especially when you just start. But why, if you know what hours you're available and you're a student and you say, I need these, certain hours off, certain days off, why it seems like I don't understand how this all came to a head, the hours thing for a student at Starbucks. So maybe I don't understand what their expectations are. But it just seems like you agreed to do this job and they put you on the schedule when you said you were available. Because as a full-time student, you obviously have times that you can't work in order to get to class, right? I don't really understand complaining about this unless there's something I'm missing. But again, so scheduling seems to be something you could take care of. You could square that away pretty simply. And then there's so many customers. And this is where I understand the frustration when you're in a busy, high volume type of environment and you're expected to move things along quickly. And there's always that inevitable customer that is complicated. Instead of just ordering off the menu, they overcomplicate the order, or they sit there and they don't know what they want, and they're talking on the phone with somebody, and they're, I get how these kinds of how even a single customer could start a snowball of frustration and aggravation. But as an employee of a customer or of a company, it's a good thing. You should get in the habit of thinking that business is good. The more the merrier. Yes, you have to push through the busy times. You got to push through the annoying customers, the ones that are impatient and that don't seem to know what they're doing at a place where everybody who walks in ought to know what their order is, and whatever's slowing things up. You just have to be able to push through that, but realize that these people that are in there buying this $5 a cup coffee, they're the reason that you have a job. So she's this, and then this is the point where she really starts to lose it. She's complaining about the schedule, and then she says there's only 5 people and one of them called out. And now you're in the back crying and making videos. So what? Now there are only 3 people out there handling the work of 5, and you're in the back. You're the one in the back crying about it. I can't imagine what these other people were thinking. And then we come to the union pitch, and that's where I almost just said, okay, this is that's really what the whole thing is about. This person's really a union activist, or maybe not an activist, but she's clearly she wants Starbucks to unionize, which I believe has already begun to happen at some places around the country. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I think some Starbucks locations have coincidentally closed at some point after unionizing. Wonder why that's happening. I wonder why as soon as minimum wage workers start to organize and make demands that legally Starbucks has to consider, why it's become untenable to keep a location open. But anyway, that's got nothing to do with this. That just seems like that became the point of all this. She really seemed to have that pitch ready. But so these people are getting mad at her for not having their drinks ready, and they're yelling at her. All right. And it's all so pathetic. And then she complains that they don't make accommodation for her being neurodivergent, which is a fairly meaningless term. It's just a difference in how her mind works. Listen, people, it's not the job of businesses to accommodate their employees' issues. The employees are paid to do a job. I have a job, all right, and my employer has assigned a value to that job. In other words, there's a pay range that my job that's it. Outside that pay range, if it's too low, he's not going to get qualified people to apply. If it's too high, then he's spending money unnecessarily on that job, even no matter how good the guy is, no matter how good I can do at my job. At a certain point, it's not worth paying more money. All right, so you have to bring other value to your job. But beyond that, but what I'm saying is, a Starbucks barista, there's a value to that job. It's going to be a minimum wage up to whatever a number is. And then if you don't move up, you're going to basically call it capping out. You've hit your ceiling at the low level. And unless you get, a supervisory position or something like that where there's where you're adding value, then it's not worth it. So that's the pay issue. That's why there's only so much they can pay. And even, especially now, there's going to become a point where a lot of these jobs are automated as this $15 an hour minimum wage starts to get closer and closer to becoming a full reality. There will be fewer and fewer workers. There will be more and more automation, and there will be, and that's where that balance is gonna go. So a lot of these people are going to, what would you call it? They're going to protest their way out of work because there won't be a need for all of them, and they're certainly not worth it. Clearly, if this is a representative sample of a normal Starbucks employee, they're just not worth much. So back to the whole neurodivergent accommodations thing. You're paid to do a job. You said you can do it. So when you took the job and you had the training, you agreed on the pay scale. You agreed that you can do the job, and you agreed that you would do it when they put you on the schedule. So it seems like you need to just do your job. And if things go south because let's say the manager is, I don't know the manager, let's say the manager is bad at his job and he just took the day off and leaves you high and dry. Well, you do your best, and you do what you have to do to get through it. And, it's really ultimately is still on them. But as far as you having a mental, deficiency or some kind of an issue that makes it, more difficult for you to do the job or learn the job or whatever it is, you think differently. That's not their problem. If you're paid to do a job, you need to accommodate the job. If you can do that, great, then you get paid to do it. If you can't, it isn't the duty of a company to find a way for that person to be able to do it. And that's where I think the expectation, this entitlement mentality, really hurts these people. Listen, like I said before, I've worked for a lot of companies, some large corporations, certainly worked for smaller businesses. I've been a low-level worker, at the bottom rung. I've worked my way up to management in a couple areas, couple companies. One thing I can tell you is this: companies don't exist to make their employees happy. Is it nice when employees are happy? Sure. But look, it usually means the employees are more productive, more reliable, more loyal. Of course, all that's true, and all that should be the goal. A good company will want their employees to be satisfied with their positions, even happy. It certainly creates enthusiasm for workers. It just makes for a better environment. So I'm not going to pretend that that's not true. But it usually does mean you get better productivity and reliability and all that stuff. But places like Starbucks and places like fast food restaurants, and even most normal restaurants, sit down restaurants for that matter, they're not in the business of spending time and money making accommodations for minimum wage employees. They're in the business of pushing their product out the door as quickly and efficiently as possible. The goal in those cases is volume. So when you take a job at, McDonald's, a Wendy's, a Taco Bell, a Starbucks, anything like that, the goal is that a lot of people come in, a lot of people go out, and their food or drinks or whatever is, it's not a lot of money per. I mean, you may think that the coffee is expensive, but they're giving you $5, $10. These are not large scale purchases, so it's volume. They make their money by selling lots of coffee. So unfortunately for many of these Starbucks employees, their ideas about how things ought to be, at least to me, seems to be at odds with the whole business model of their industry. And anyway, who cares what you think? I mean, really, what do you know? Why can't you just do your job? This one, here you are not working, right? I mean, ultimately, what this demonstrates is a person is not working, not helping out the other workers who presumably have to carry your weight. I mean, it's possible she's on a break or something like that, but still, you're clearly not handling the job. Remember, you had somebody else call out, so now they have to carry that person's weight and now your weight too, while you sit in the back room crying. So you're clearly an employee who doesn't care about anyone but yourself. And you're complaining about the fact that you work at a busy store and that you get scheduled for what you think is a lot of hours. And you seem to want to make more money. This is with the whole union pitch. You seem to want to make more money. You want to have more benefits, right? That's why you look to unionize. And you want all this because but your main complaint is you want fewer customers. Do I have that right? You want more and you're offering less. Or maybe you want more people scheduled, again, which means the company's paying more money, which means really in order for that to be worth it, they would need even more customers. It doesn't work in your favor. Fewer customer to employee ratio doesn't make your argument work, because it costs the company more money. So you become it's just a revolving door. There's usually some kind of metric that the company uses. In this location, we expect this amount of business, so we have to have this many people on the floor. That's why they schedule the way they do. Then sometimes it gets busy. Other times it might be less busy, and hopefully it all works out. But the whole union pitch is your complaint is too much work, too many hours, too much customers, and so you want to have more money, you want to have less responsibility, and you want fewer customers. I don't see how. I don't understand the math on it. In any case, here's my final thought, and I think this is something. I think you can use this wherever you work. All right. So first, if you have a problem with your hours, talk to your manager and make sure you can handle the hours you're being asked to work. If you can, then shut up and get back to work. If you can't, then maybe you need to find another job, maybe something that's more accommodating for a full-time student. Second, if you have a problem with scheduling, again, talk to your manager. And in a company like Starbucks, there's got to be a change of command. If your manager's as bad as you say, doesn't respond to an employee issue, then there has to be a way to escalate it. Every orientation that I've ever been to, especially for any corporate job I've ever had, they always said it, if you have a problem, you go to your manager. Manager doesn't can't help you or won't help you or whatever it is, then you escalate it this way. So there's got to be something. There's got to be a way to escalate it to the next rung on the ladder. There's got to be an HR department. This is what they're there for. This is what they do. They get paid a lot of money to handle this kind of thing. Use them. If it's that serious, then that needs to be the next step. Finally, and this is crucial. It's not something I've ever in my life ever even would think of doing, and it just might be because I'm older. This isn't where I would go to. I don't go to social media when I have a grievance, but you don't air your workplace issues on social media. There's nothing good that can possibly come of it. There's no help you're going to receive here. We're not your family. We're not your friends. We're just onlookers peering into the world that you open up for us. We don't really care about you. If you have a problem, you talk to your manager. If you need to vent, find a friend, your mother, your dog, find a fellow employee, preferably off the clock and off the premises. But you don't do it on social media because you look like an idiot, frankly. A pathetic, whining, sniveling idiot. And that will do it for today. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thanks for watching this in-between episode. Remember to click the subscribe button and the notifications bell. Leave me a comment in the comments section. You can send me an email at chrismerlinoshow@gmail.com. And remember to keep an eye out for more of these in-between episodes. You never know when I'm going to come up with something that is absolutely critical to your life. So midterms coming up. Get out and vote. I'll see you next time, this coming Wednesday on the Chris Merlino Show.